It could be a very pretty girl that you say, oh, there's no way this girl works for the cartel. Or if she does work for the cartel, she's definitely not a killer. And then they find out that that's not the case.
When someone mentions narco lords and cartel kingpins, we find ourselves picturing ruthless men like Joaquin El Chapo Guzman or Pablo Escobar. When someone mentions narcotics traffickers, we picture muscles and violence and armed men in dark uniforms. We rarely think of beautiful girls picking up weapons and tormenting people. But the last few decades have seen gorgeous and innocent-looking women running factions, leading groups of sicarios, and aiding their narco-lord husbands in money laundering or escaping prisons. La Catrina is a name that gained popularity for two things: her blinding beauty and her ruthlessness as a sicaria. Her beauty was worthy of envy, but it had nothing to do with her high status rank within the cartel. She had earned it with her own hard work. So how did she become a part of one of the strongest cartels in the world? How did she climb the ranks so fast? Why was she considered one of the most brutal female cartel leaders? And where is she now? Stay tuned as we answer these questions and uncover more information about one of the most beautiful hitmen in the history of the Mexican narcotics cartel. This is the story of La Catrina, the gorgeous model who became a ruthless sicaria and left her mark on the world. La Catrina was born as Maria Guadalupe Lopez Esquivel in the city of Tepalcatepec in southern Mexico. Her father was a farmer, and her mother was a homemaker. Maria might not have been through extreme poverty, but they weren't rich either. But she always craved a luxurious life, which her parents couldn't afford. Maria wasn't an attentive student, and always dreamed of the life of a star. Her Instagram account was a testament to it. She had a huge fan following, and posted glamorous pictures whenever she could. At the same time, Maria became interested in the power and glamour that came with the cartel life. She was an avid fan of the Spanish TV show La Reina del Sur, and was heavily influenced by Kate del Castillo, an actress who portrayed the role of a female narco boss in the show. She looked for ways to join cartels, and the opportunity finally came in 2017. She met Miguel LM2 Fernandez, a leader of the notorious CJNG or Jalisco New Generation cartel. They fell in love, and Miguel opened up the world of narcotics and violence for Maria. Her dream finally came true, and she welcomed the opportunity with open arms. She earned her moniker La Catrina after the Dame of the Dead from Aztec folklore after she joined cartel life. In the folklore, La Catrina is the queen of the underworld and watches over the bones of the deceased. Created by the Mexican printmaker Jose Guadalupe Posada, she is a highly celebrated symbol in Mexican culture. The country holds a Day of the Dead festival where people dress up as La Catrina.
The streets of Mexico City came alive last night, you could say, as hundreds of skeletons paraded on the capital's main boulevard as part of the Day of the Dead festivities. The parade is one of the city's many events for the Day of the Dead, a pre-Hispanic tradition in which families remember their dead and celebrate the continuity of life.
The nickname was fitting for this female hitman, as she served death to her victims, rivals, and law enforcement officers. The world soon learned that despite the brightness she carried as her aura, she had one of the darkest hearts, and what helped her rise to power was the same thing that brought her downfall. The CJNG or Jalisco New Generation Cartel has become a nuisance for Mexican law enforcement in the last decades. The cartel was founded in the early 2010s after breaking away from another powerful narcotics traffic organization, the Milenio Cartel.
The Milenio Cartel splintered over, and one of those splinters was Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, the CJNG.
The cartel was led by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho. He gained popularity for his unmatched brutality. Being related to the Milenio Cartel and the Valencia family, he grew up with violence, and this translated well into his role as the leader of the notorious organized criminal group. The CJNG is much more organized and can perform well under stress. They have access to advanced weapons. The recruits receive military training, making them some of the smartest sicarios out there.
They have a very intelligent strategy, which is basically branding themselves and looking like paramilitary power.
Their polished appearances ensure that people know who the CJNG is. They have branded their vests with the letter CJNG and wear them as uniforms. They also carry heavy arms at all times and drive handmade tanks. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel has emerged as an active narcotics trafficker other than the Sinaloa Cartel. They specialize in smuggling cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and fentanyl, and are a major supplier of these narcotics to the United States.
The DEA says his cartel, called Cartel Jalisco or CJNG, is responsible for roughly a third of the drugs entering this country by land and by sea.
They have thousands of recruits with strong networks around the world. The DEA is actively fighting the smuggling, but their manpower is not as big as the CJNG. and they're struggling to tackle their smuggling operations. Other than that, the CJNG is notorious for its mindless violence. They're one of the cartels who never hesitate to torment their victims and leave proof of their brutality out in the streets.
Y entonces, y pelándola, les cortan los brazos, y les quitan como que fuera yuca, pues, que le quitan la carne, la cabeza por allá, los brazos por allá, y todo como.
The CJNG has wreaked havoc in the city many times when things didn't go as planned for them. This is a great way for them to gain leverage and get what they want.
And all that violence is only to have leverage in the negotiations with the government, with politicians, right? They create these chaos to go and sit with the local politicians and say, like, okay, do you want more, or shall we negotiate this?
Apart from fighting law enforcement, CJNG also battles rival cartels for control of territories. Regular clashes occur in many states of Mexico, leaving many dead.
Tomito, el dron, güey. Tráeme el dron. El dron. Tráeme el dron, güey. Las pilas. Le dieron un putazo.
In 2011, the CJNG slaughtered 35 men and women, loaded their bodies on trucks, and dumped them in various areas in Veracruz. The massacre gained international attention, but no action was taken against it. In 2015, law enforcement ran an operation to capture one of their leaders. The CJNG created roadblocks and set vehicles on fire in Guadalajara to prevent them from taking their boss to prison.
The criminal group responded really quickly. They blocked some main avenues in Guadalajara. They set buses to fire. And as you said, they managed to bring down a military helicopter with 16 soldiers on board. 6 were dead.
In 2019, a member of the CJNG was denied extortion money at a bar in Veracruz. He lit the bar on fire. It took the lives of 26 people. The cartel was perfect for anyone who wanted to practice mindless ruthlessness, especially against innocents who didn't have any ties with narcotics trafficking. The United States is trying to capture the kingpin El Mencho, hoping that this would reduce the monstrosities and bring the narcotics trafficking under control.
Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, CJNG, is the single criminal organization most responsible for these deaths on both sides of the border.
Tonight, the DEA is offering $10 million for information leading to the arrest of the Mexican drug kingpin known as El Mencho. He's blamed for a flood of narcotics into the U.S.
But then, the cartel recruited violent sicarios like El Katrina, proving that even if law enforcement took away some of their men, they would always have new replacements ready. Some even more brutal than the one they captured. The U.S. Department of Justice labeled the CJNG as one of the 5 most dangerous international criminal organizations in the world. Because they offered easy money and have positioned themselves as an invincible criminal organization, they gathered the attention of many men and women in Mexico.
Según versiones de algunos informantes que manejamos nosotros en el sector, muchas mujeres, lastimosamente por la situación económica del país, se ven involucradas en trabajar de informantes de las pandillas o de venderles droga.
Most of these people came from poor backgrounds. Driven by the extremely harsh conditions of life, these people took on roles within a cartel very easily.
Nosotros somos pobres, sembramos, vendemos la hojita para mantener nuestro hogar y nuestros hijos educarlos. Dice que va a haber apoyo para dejar sembrar las cocas. Hasta el día de hoy, ¿qué apoyo? Nada, ningún apoyo para nosotros.
While most women take up roles that require less field work, La Katrina was one of the few who was battling at the front. This practice is a new phenomenon. The previous generation of cartel women mostly stayed away from violence and looked after their male counterparts' money. But more and more women are becoming assassins in the newest generation of cartels. According to one expert who trains American law enforcement on cartel activity, female cartel members are not new, but their numbers are on the rise. They don't want to be the cartel wife of the old days. They want part of the action, said Robert Almonte, a security consultant. They love the action. They love the excitement. They love the money. And they want to be able to call some shots also. Things were working out fine for her, until one day, it turned into a nightmare.
So, how did La Katrina climb the ladders within the cartel so fast? She had something that many didn't, her beauty. She would sometimes use it to lure in enemies, often to torment them or take their lives. At the same time, she used her beauty to attract people looking to join cartels. Her Instagram account had tons of pictures, most of which showed off the lavish cartel lifestyle. She would take pictures holding firearms, boarding a helicopter, or all dolled up and ready to party.
Pleased with her dedication towards the cartel, the CJNG soon promoted her to a sicaria. She was given her own team of hitmen. La Catrina's boyfriend, Miguel El Maos Fernandez, shared his strategies with her. Under his guidance, she became the perfect female sicaria, who was adept at almost all streams of cartel operations. She participated in the strategizing and implementation of many violent attacks and assassinations. She was also involved in bribery and extortion. She had a group of dedicated informants who exchanged information with her for hefty fees. She trained her men to perform the same brutal acts, and soon they became one of the strongest and feared teams within the cartel. La Catrina loved her nickname so much that she got a tattoo of the Aztec goddess on her left thigh. It sported the image of La Catrina, the lady with a skeleton face. She proudly showed it off on her social media. Her name is associated with some of the brutal massacres that took many lives of law enforcement officials. One such incident in the El Aguaje ambush. On October 14, 2019, a police convoy was passing through El Aguaje in Michoacan. The state has always had a bad reputation as a cartel hub. The policemen had gone there to serve a warrant. La Catrina and her men had intel about this operation, and it gave them the perfect opportunity to orchestrate an ambush. As the convoy drove into their area, about 30 sicarios began firing at them. The policemen fired back to protect themselves, and the area turned into a battle zone within a matter of moments. La Catrina's men burned down any vehicle they could get their hands on.
Ay, güey, se siente la llamarada, la verdad.
Especialidad de la casa, las trencitas azucaradas. Ven y compruebe la gran variedad de pan azucarado que Panadería de Ana le ofrece. Llegó el pan hasta la puerta.
Estaría patrullando varios de los municipios.
Una chamba de 4.
The clash took the lives of 13 officers and left 9 others wounded. The incident was a win for the CJNG and one of the few deadly attacks led by a woman sicaria. Law enforcement traced the involvement of La Catrina in the attack and came up with sufficient evidence to incriminate her. Reportedly, she had paid hundreds of dollars to halcones or falcones to bring her information about the convoy so that they could set up an ambush. Furthermore, a leaked audio clip between her and Miguel LM2. Fernandez confirmed that La Catrina had received specific information from her boyfriend to conduct the ambush and massacre. In the audio, Miguel asked her if she understood what she was supposed to do. She confirmed that she did and assured him that she would take care of everything as instructed. "Are you already taking responsibility for what I told you?" LM2 is heard saying in the recording. "Yes, Commando, we just had a flat tire," La Catrina responds. Many also suspected that law enforcement was also involved in this ambush and were responsible for the death of fellow officers. It's a well-known fact that many officers are connected to the cartels, and they tip off the bosses for heavy cash. This particular incident was suspicious for 2 reasons. The convoy was sent into the area without enough backup, which is unlikely for a raid like this one. Police radio recordings revealed that the officers had requested backup multiple times, but help hadn't arrived until an hour had passed. The damage had already been done by then. "Please hurry up. There are wounded," says one officer over a background of automatic gunfire and cries of agony. At another point in the recordings, which were circulated on social media, a male voice is clearly heard declaring, "I'm dying," and secondly, none of the officers were high-ranked. It appeared as though the officers were sent to El Aguaje to be cattle for slaughter on that day. Even the locals at El Aguaje had the same view. "It was crazy to send them here like that," said a young mother who lives a block away from the ambush and asked not to be named. "They were sent to the slaughter. They never stood a chance," said a friend of one of the murdered officers during a hastily organized memorial service in the state capital Morelia that buzzed with discontent in the ranks. Another local woman confirmed that the policemen weren't supposed to be in that area without backups. "This is Jalisco territory now. It was the territory of other groups before," the young mother explained. "The police are with another group, so they don't usually come here without an army escort." The CJNG took responsibility for the attack and announced their involvement through messages written on 2 posters. The writing also served as a threat to officers who were working for rival cartels. The message was clear: they would meet the same fate if they weren't more careful. They also showed large placards apparently signed by Jalisco New Generation, CJNG, one of Mexico's most powerful and rising cartels. They warned police not to support rival crime groups, including Los Viagras. A set of leaked audio messages of the CJNG radio communications captured the reason for the attacks. In the bone-chilling messages, the cartel members said that the attack took place to show that Jalisco belonged to the CJNG now. "We want the people and the government to know why we hit them," he barks. Some officers took this opportunity to voice how they were rarely prepared to survive such attacks against cartels. "We don't have the means to defend ourselves," he said. "We don't have the support we need to take on any criminal group." La Catrina and the CJNG leaders knew about this, which they had used to their advantage. Most evidence pointed to the possibility that the attack was orchestrated just to send out a message, and because of this, it was imperative that police caught and punished the cartel, or the faction responsible for this. This is when the hunt against La Catrina began in full force. In January 2020, a video began circulating on the internet claiming that the ruthless La Catrina of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel was taken out after a brutal gun battle with law enforcement. The police were desperately looking for her at this point, and the golden opportunity finally arrived when they found La Catrina and her group of sicarios at La Bocanada in Aguililla, Mexico. Upon sensing their presence, the cartel members raised roadblocks to prevent the officers from reaching them. But the police were equipped for the battle this time. After a long exchange of bullets, the police were finally able to capture La Catrina and her men. Despite employing her training and strategies, La Catrina was hit in the battle. Body cam footage collected from one of the officers showed her sitting against a wall. She looked harrowed and in pain. She had splotches of red on her face, hands, and clothes. Her hair was disheveled and matted. She had a flimsy and dirty piece of cloth around her neck, possibly to prevent the wound from leaking. As she struggled for breath, the soldier could be heard pacifying her.
Tranquila, mija, ya viene el helicóptero por ti. Ya viene el helicóptero. Tranquila, hija, tranquila. Vas a estar bien. Trata de aguantar, ¿eh?
Calm down, kid. The helicopter is coming for you. It is coming now. Easy, easy. You are going to be okay. Try to hang on. The policemen managed to capture all the CJNG hitmen who were present in the location that day. Pictures released showed them lined up on the ground on their knees, all worn out from the distressing battle. After help arrived, one of the soldiers carried La Catrina to the helicopter. The mighty sicaria looked almost out of breath. Her arms flailed, and then she tried to place them around the soldier's neck. Even in these moments, she had a strong desire to live. She was then carried inside the helicopter. The last people saw of her was when she was lying on a stretcher, possibly in the medical center where she was getting treatment. According to reports, La Catrina had excessive blood loss from the wound on her neck, and she succumbed to her injuries soon afterward. Unfortunately, she was the only one who lost her life that day. None of her hitmen had such grave injuries, and they all survived the battle. But the arrests made by law enforcement were a major win, as they captured as many as 6 CJNG leaders that day. Allegedly, one of them was Miguel LM2 Fernandez, La Catrina's boyfriend.
Miguel Fernández, alias el M2, y jefe de la plaza del Cártel Jalisco Nueva Generación, CJNG, en Tierra Caliente y quien fue detenido el pasado 10 de enero por el ejército mexicano, tras un enfrentamiento, en el que murió María Esquivel, La Catrina, ambos presuntos líderes.
However, investigations later uncovered that LM2 wasn't captured in that raid. The police had confiscated a large amount of ammunition and a number of vehicles from their hideout. La Catrina was only 21 when she lost her life. Looking back at her story, she could have become anything she wanted, a model, an influencer, or even a TV star. But she chose to become a sicaria, which endangered her whole life. Even though she always sought a bright future, the choices she made weren't the brightest. She indeed left a mark on the world, but not in a positive way. People will remember her, but only as one of the most brutal sicarias who took the lives of many innocents. Her death gave us a reason to question the authority on why more women are choosing the path of such brutality. Is it because of the influence cartel members have had on the latest generation, or simply because they want to escape poverty? What did you think about the life of La Catrina? Do you think that she's one of the most brutal female narco lords out there? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.